Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They say, listen, how did you do that?
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. Happy Monday, everybody. Start of a new week, new show, same old shitty problems. Yes, we're going to talk about a lot of different things today. We have the People's Convoy. Wait, what? Wait, hold on. That's still a thing? Kind of. So we're going to talk about that and how the wheels fell off. Not in a literal sense, but we're also going to talk about CPAC embracing authoritarianism, literally doing it in an authoritarian country. I'm not kidding. Donald Trump, doing some stuff on Truth Social. Let's see how that's going. Then we have Republicans very, very stumped when challenged about January 6th, the conspiracy theory about Antifa, and then I'm going to talk about Officer Karen. There's a video out from Idaho of, you know what, I'll have to show you the video. Other than that, we have no details about that. I looked for like a story, a news story, nothing, but the video is going to blow your mind. It's insanity. So we've got that. We're going to talk about that. A lot of fun stuff we're going to do today. And so why don't we get to it? By the way, before we go, thank you, TYT, for the raid of 175 people. Please, of course, follow us here for more videos, of course, and all that stuff. Thank you for the raid. Really, really appreciate that. All right, let's do it. Let's jump in. The so-called People's Convoy has completely and unsurprisingly imploded upon itself. Shocker. Now look, these are the truckers who initially drove to the Capitol back in March to protest against vaccine mandates that didn't actually exist. And they were modeled, of course, after the Canadian truckers who had held, I think, what, a couple city blocks hostage and blocked traffic. Now, what's funny about these truckers, the copycat truckers in America, is they were incredibly weak. They were chased out by eggs, by a bicyclist, and some pretty big executive dysfunction. Despite all of that, they claimed that they would ambush the nation's capital on last Thursday afternoon. So now what's interesting about this is that the People's Convoy has been going through a whole bunch of leadership changes. Interesting. Now, look, the different leader here is, I forget his name, Mr. Riddell. And he is the newly appointed convoy leader after Brian Braze bailed on the group to return to his home in northern Ohio. Now, probably, of course, because he had wasted time and money for literally no reason. They got no results. And by the way, what results were you looking for? Honestly, there are no mandates for vaccines. There's not even any mask mandates. We've pretty much forgotten about the pandemic, which, by the way, still exists. Over 1 million people, Americans, have died from COVID, and yet everybody seems to have moved on, which I think is a pretty big mistake, actually. Disastrous. Now, of course, Riddell is continuing this. It's a gigantic grift. But let me get to that. According to the Daily Beast, convoy goers aimlessly circled the Beltway on Wednesday of last week and got stuck in rush hour traffic. Sad. Asked by one supporter on Wednesday evening whether the convoy had an exit plan out of D.C. proper, Riddell said he had no desire to leave the area once the trucker crew was inside the city limits, but they never really got there. By Friday afternoon, the group had failed to go through their plan to quote-unquote ambush the city. I don't even know what that means. Like, ambush the city? You're a bunch of trucks. People are going to know. They're going to notice that. Again, they didn't. I guess they failed and subsequently surrendered and decided to go back to their base. As of 2:30 p.m., this is on May 20th, the People's Convoy declares victory. This is a statement they put out and announced its conclusion of the national convoy portion of this great movement. This great movement that has done nothing. Any convoy and protest activity from this time forward is done on an individual basis and is not representing the People's Convoy. The group wrote in a press release, "We will be exiting Hagerton Speedway within 7 days." Now, look, this exit apparently did not go well, did not go down well or sit well with some of the people that were actually in the convoy. So the leadership made this decision, and some of the members are like, I don't know. Not good. We don't agree with that. In fact, one streamer said, quote, "You have families that were misled across the nation. What happened here is beyond ridiculous." During a Wednesday afternoon live stream, I believe another streamer named Trucker G had talked about one fan's comment expressing worry that the group might become hostile and do violence. "I see several people leaning towards violence," the user wrote, prompting the YouTubing trucker to remark this: "I hope not. As soon as they take this violently, it's going to throw everything they're trying to accomplish. It's going to throw it away." What have you tried to accomplish? I don't understand. What have you done? Nothing. Again, I'm totally fine with protests as long as they remain peaceful. You all know my position on that. However, apparently the leaders had different goals than some of the members, and apparently it nearly came to blows. In fact, after leaders of the convoy surrendered and attempted to dissolve the convoy as of Friday, their own supporters had actually chased convoy leaders Ron Coleman and Marcus Summers into a trailer. Maryland state troopers arrived at the Hagerstown Speedway to convoy goers yelling "squatters' rights." After speaking with Coleman, Summers, and other co-organizers of the RV, in the RV, a state trooper told angry convoy supporters that there was no financial contract with the Speedway and that they would have to leave the property within hours. "We would like to press charges," convoy goers yelled back, seeking to begin a legal endeavor against convoy leaders, including Coleman and Summers, over alleged fraud. Quote, "Arrest them for fucking fraud," another supporter yelled out. Summers got back into the RV as police attempted to de-escalate the situation. former Convoy leader Brian Brace took to Facebook to then claim, I didn't have anything to do with this. This was not my mess. I can't say what's happening over here. I'm washing my hands of this one. Smart. Real smart. It's about the smartest thing Braze has ever done. This whole thing has just absolutely devolved. Gone. Now, here's the thing. I'm actually going to side with the supporters on this one and not the leadership of the truckers. Why? Because the whole entire thing was a grift. I do think that some of the supporters there that were still doing this actually believed in what they were doing. The leadership were the ones that were getting donations. Yes, there were still people that were donating, not nearly as many as there were before, because the right wing has essentially pretty much forgotten about this entire thing. And what did they do with that money? They drove around DC and they wasted a bunch of gas. That's it. That's it. There was no real goal here, no real protest. All they did was just want to raise money from dupes in the hopes of raising their own profiles and making it onto Fox News. But the thing is, the media doesn't care about you anymore, guys. Truckers, your 15 minutes of fame are over. Gone. You know what they're talking about now? They're talking about immigration. They're talking about inflation. They're talking about baby formula. They're talking about anything that they could do to get people pissed off at Joe Biden before the midterms and the Democrats. That's it. That's it. So, sorry, not sorry. They're just not into you anymore. Go home. Gone. This is what happens, by the way, when you have a protest looking for a cause instead of actually giving a shit about what you're doing. Just saying. Yeah, the leaders were fundraising. The organizers were testing the range of their influence networks. There you go. All right. So let's move on. Let's go to CPAC. Over the weekend, CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, decided to go mask off in its racism and embrace authoritarianism fully. So now, first off, the location itself, big red flag. It was held in the Eastern European nation of Hungary, which has fallen into authoritarianism under nationalist leader Viktor Orban. The U.S. think tank Freedom House, by the way, has downgraded its assessment of Hungary to being a partly free society under Orban and his ruling Fidesz party, noting constitutional and legal changes that have allowed it to consolidate control over the country's independent institutions, including the judiciary, the media, etc. In fact, the country also ranks among the most corrupt European countries, according to an index by Transparency International, an independent advocacy group based in Germany. Hungarian media is largely under control of the ruling party. The courts are filled with friendly judges and Orban loyalists who control most of the economy. So now, as far as social policy, Orban has imposed policies that are hostile to LGBTQ people, immigrants. He bragged about building a wall between Hungary and Serbia. They've also invoked anti-Semitism. In fact, one of his recent campaigns, you had pictures of George Soros with the caption, "Don't let Soros have the last laugh." And by the way, Orban also subscribes to the Great Replacement conspiracy theory. So obviously, this is the perfect place for Republicans to gather. What Orban did to Hungary, they want to do here. In fact, Orban himself was a keynote speaker, and I'm going to show you some of that speech. It is incredibly scary because what they are doing is basically laying the groundwork, and Orban is saying, "Hey, if you want to do what I did, here's what you got to do. You got to control the media." Take a look.
Of course, the Grand Old Party has associates in the media, associated media, but they do not compete with the dominance of the liberal press. Only my friend Tucker Carlson places himself on the line without wavering. His new program is the most watched. What does it mean? It means that programs like his should run day and night, as you say, 24/7.
Can you imagine 24/7 Tucker Carlson? Huh. Oh, but no, Tucker Carlson, definitely not a racist, says some people, even on the left. Insane. And now he also told Republicans in another part of the speech, having your own media, it's the only way to point out the insanity of the progressive left. The problem is the Western media is adjusted to the leftist viewpoint. Those who taught reporters in universities already had progressive leftist principles. Okay, hold on here. In what world do Republicans not have control over the media? Okay, so you're saying that people that have Fox News, Newsmax, the majority of talk radio, Sinclair Broadcasting, which is your local news companies that are doing pro-Republican, pro-Trump propaganda, Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, Dan Bongino, Joe Rogan, on and on and on. And yes, by the way, Joe Rogan, I count Joe Rogan because guess what? He does play to a conservative point of view on trans issues, as well as being anti-science, anti-vax, and consistently platforms far-right guests. So they've got all of that. Now, what is the progressive left? What do they have? Pretty much independent media, what you're watching right now. Cable news, not leftist. No, cable news is establishment corporate media. Now, look, you could say that, well, they're more progressive on social issues. Sure. Guess why? It's because gay people have money and they spend money. And by the way, corporate media doesn't want to lose that audience because guess what? The majority of the country agrees with the left on those social issues. And so, of course, cable news, being corporate media, corporate being the key word here, they're going to appeal to those audiences. That's why you do see a lot of, what's the word that I'm looking at here? It's rainbow capitalism, appealing to people, to these demographics, but not actually really doing a whole lot to champion their cause or to protect them or defend them. So, I mean, look, and by the way, understand that what Orban is talking about, he is giving the right-wing advice to say you need to take over total control of the media. And the way that you do that is you, of course, you make sure to paint the media as being super unfair to conservatives. Oh, it's too liberal. It's biased against conservatives. It lies to you. And you can only trust the right wing. And so, look, there is a specific word used to describe that phenomenon as well, of saying that the media is untrustworthy. And by the way, trust in corporate news is incredibly low. And by the way, you can make a leftist case for that as well, that they certainly have not earned trust. They have lost their trust for good reason, for both sides in many different issues. And so look, the corporate media, obviously, since they are corporate, they take the corporate side. They give equal weight to both sides. Insane anti-science conservatives versus, and I remember when they used to do these so-called debates on climate change, where you'd bring in an insane person who's like, oh, climate change not really happening. No, not at all. And then you bring on another person from the side and say, oh, well, actually here we do have science. And they'll treat those two sides as an even debate. No. And the reason they do that is because you have corporate media that's funded in large part by other giant corporations or industries like the oil and gas industry. And so they muddy the water and they make both sides appear to be even, when in reality, they are not even at all. Conservatives have constantly lied about these issues. And unfortunately, again, it has worked. Corporate news outlets do not want to be called liberal. And look, some of their hosts, some of their news actors, they wanted to be on Fox News. Some of them had went over to Fox News. And now, of course, unfortunately, it's the other way around. Now you have Fox News hosts that are going to corporate media, or I'm sorry, not corporate media, because Fox News is corporate media, but they're going over to CNN. They're going over to MSNBC. You have former Trump administration officials getting jobs at CNN. No, corporate media is an absolute disaster. And the right wing celebrates the death of real media in this country because guess what? When they delegitimize the media, they get to take over. Tucker Carlson has the largest audience on cable news, the most watched show. Most watched show. That's how it happens. And so, look, they're going to try to take over and get control of the flow of information, as they've been trying to do for the last 30, 40 years. And of course, when they do actually get control, we've seen that in Hungarian media, they do political correctness to help their agenda of stripping women of reproductive rights, denying immigration, stepping on free speech and protest. When they go after education, as the right wing in this country is doing, and what they had done in Hungary, this is a really dangerous thing that is happening. We are barreling towards fascism in this country. And again, a lot of it is because of the failures of corporate media. They didn't listen to us. They didn't listen to us. And now, again, fascism on its way, on its way. And by the way, it wasn't just Orban that spoke. There were plenty of other speakers as well at CPAC, and it does really show you the kinds of people that they like to ally with. You had a cavalcade of awful people. One of them is Solt Bayer, who took the stage at the second day of CPAC. He had once referred to Jewish people as stinking excrement, referred to the Roma people as animals, and of course used racial slurs against black people. In fact, this is what he wrote during the 2020 BLM protests on his blog. Quote, "Is this the future? Kissing the dirty boots of effing N-words and smiling at them, being happy about this because otherwise they'd kill you or beat you up." So this is this is what this guy believes. And in 2013, he wrote that a significant part of the Roma are unfit for coexistence. They are not fit to live among people, he said. And during his speech, Bayer had focused on attacking Calvin Klein for so-called political correctness, comparing a 2009 ad featuring a white supermodel whom Bayer called a, quote, very hot woman, with a 2019 ad featuring a black rapper, Chica, who he described as not so hot, adding, "It's clear that this ad was born under the aegis of Black Lives Matter." Kind of reminds me of Jordan Peterson tweeting out that picture of, I think it was Yumi Liu, on the cover of Sports Illustrated and saying, like, what was it? This is not beautiful, and no amount of authoritarianism will make it be beautiful. Authoritarianism. Wow. So again, there's clear racist underpinnings. Now that convention also featured speeches from people like Donald Trump, Fox News host Tucker Carlson, of course, and even Trump's former White House chief of staff, Mark Meadows, and Jack Posobiec. Addressing the conference by video shortly before Bayer's appearance, Trump said this about Orban, quote, "He is a great leader, a great gentleman, and he just had a very big election result. I was very honored to endorse him. Wow. You know, what's amazing here is there used to be a time where people like this were shunned. Where racists, anti-Semites, and authoritarians were, yes, they still exist, of course, but they were forced to hide under the rocks. Now they're all out in the open. They're out in the open and they're celebrating the fact that they're authoritarians. This is dangerous stuff. Just incredibly disastrous. This is who they are, though. This is who they are. When people show you and tell you who they are, I don't know, maybe you should believe them. They're authoritarians. Plain and simple. Yeah, Samuel Vime says they had to wear hoods. They had to wear hoods. Now, no, hoods off. Hoods off. All right. Go to Truth Social. "100%. I just want things to be boring again," says Old Thumb Nub. Unfortunately, boring is not going to happen. All right. Former President Donald Trump has actually stepped up his usage of Truth Social. Oh, well, that's interesting. Now, unfortunately, that means that he is posting things like endorsements of civil war. In fact, I'm going to show you here an account called MAGA King Thanos, which, by the way, Thanos tried to snap away half existence. I mean, that's maybe not a good comparison. You know, comparing yourself to a supervillain that kills half of all existence. Maybe not a good look, but to them, understand, like, yes, we are the bad guys. We're literally admitting it. Oh, great. Now, this account did a screenshot of Laura Logan's post from the president of El Salvador, saying that the most powerful in the country in the world was, quote, falling so fast, and something so big and powerful can't be destroyed so quickly unless the enemy comes from within. So there it is. And you see, of course, how Trump had retruthed. God, that's so lazy. But had put in civil war. Civil war. Yeah. So this was pointed out by husband of former Trump staffer Kellyanne Conway, George Conway. He shared this image on Twitter saying, "Nothing to see here, just a former president of the United States sharing a social media post advocating or predicting civil war in the United States. No biggie." Well, I mean, that's what they want. It's very, very obvious that they want a real conflict. Now, another account, the ghost of George Conway, tweeted this. "General Milley said we were on the brink of our own Reichstag moment. CIA Director Haspel expressed worry of a right-wing coup, and both Secretaries of Defense, Esper and Miller, have come forward saying that they have been concerned that Trump would invoke the Insurrection Act. It may seem amusing to some, but there's a mountain of evidence that shows this threat, especially in the absence of Electoral Count Act reform, is real and should concern us all." It should. Again, how long have I been saying this? Donald Trump is an authoritarian. The majority of the Republican Party, also authoritarians, they are with him. They are with him. Again, we cannot forget that they had attempted to end our democracy on January 6th. And I don't mean, by the way, the riots. Okay? No, the actual plan, the real plan. The Green Bay sweep, putting up fake electors in important states that would just lie and say, "Oh, no, we're the real electors. Look, we've got all this paperwork that we made up and even use the state seal. They would go in, and the plan was for them to vote for Trump, regardless of the actual election counts. Steve Bannon talked about this, bragged about this plan. Peter Navarro wrote about it in his book. This thing that was going to, this plan to take over our country. That's the reality of the situation. That's the reality. And by the way, they didn't win last time. So that does not mean that they're not going to try again. They are absolutely going to try again. They have embraced authoritarianism. Donald Trump is out there praising a right-wing nationalist, Viktor Orban, who successfully did destroy his country's democracy. They're effectively a right-wing, one-party nation. So he's out there truthing about it, and it's kind of a big deal. Other things that he shared, of course, were posts about Mo Brooks. Trump shared an Alabama Political Reporter article reporting that Brooks was still sending out flyers, touting that he had pulled his endorsement from Mo Brooks. Let me show you that here. Brooks mailer is using Trump endorsement nearly 2 months after it was withdrawn. Can't do that, Mo. Can't do it. Not allowed. Do you know the reason that Trump had unendorsed Mo Brooks? It's because Mo Brooks told him, hey, maybe you should stop talking about the election. It's over. That's it. It's over. Stop talking about it, because that's going to make us lose. That's the big crime. That's the big crime here. Now, Trump also shared a post from somebody named Jarvis Patriot that called for all January 6th political prisoners to be freed, portraying the situation as a grandmother who took selfies in the Capitol being jailed without bail while Jussie Smollett, Alec Baldwin, and Hunter Biden were all free. Oh, okay, well, first of all, 2 of those people not charged with any crimes. Now, look, Hunter Biden's under investigation. Okay, fair enough. I'll accept that that's the reality of the situation. Hunter Biden, kind of a naughty boy, making some money in some, corrupt ways. Jussie Smollett, however, had already been sentenced to 150 days in jail, plus nearly $150,000 in fines and restitution, but is currently out on bail during the appeal process. Okay. But Baldwin, Alec Baldwin, why would he be in prison? It was an accident during a movie set. And by the way, you can say, well, look, there were a lot of safety failures that led to that accident from happening. And yeah, that doesn't mean that he did it on purpose. It's an accident. It's an accident. Now, as far as the January 6th defendants, however, they're facing some serious charges, much more so than taking selfies. He then also continued to rage about Dr. Oz having to do a runoff against Dave McCormick. Now, I remember talking about this the other day, and how actually there was a third candidate that acted as a spoiler that was super, super far right. She spoiled the election, and now there's a bit of a runoff. And, well, as far as Trump is concerned, he's just like, Dr. Oz, you should have just declared victory. Who cares about the votes? Who cares about democracy? We don't need any of that. I say Dr. Oz won, and there it is. Dr. Oz won. Look, man, other posts, of course, include 2020 fixation, wanted to jail political opponents like Hillary Clinton, who again didn't do a crime. But look, it's I think if it's not obvious by now, and I mean it should be, the right wing is in favor of all of this. Trump's their guy. Half of all Republicans believe that Biden stole the election. A third think political violence is acceptable now. and people like Orban and, are authoritarians. And that's exactly what they're looking up to, what they want to emulate. And by the way, conspiracies like the Great Replacement, they're mainstreamed in the Republican Party. That's it. This is who the Republicans are now. And those of you, again, who are, liberals, you're not paying attention. Media, wakey. It's time to face reality. We have a fascist party in this country. They are not even. They are not equal. And we need to do something about it. And the first thing that I would think of is anybody who's involved in the planning of the insurrection, for example, the fake electors, need to be brought up on charges. Why is Steve Bannon not being brought up on charges? Why is Peter Navarro not being brought up? Where's Merrick Garland? Where's Merrick Garland? Why don't you do your job and actually go after the insurrectionists, the real insurrectionists, the people that have tried to take this country from us, to steer it away from democracy? But no, they're not going to do that. Why? Because people like Trump, Bannon, they're a protected class. They're wealthy and powerful, and they're right-wing. Oh, we can't touch the right wing. No, we can't do anything about them. We can't touch them because the vaunted right wing. We have to reason with them. No, you don't reason with fascists. You can't. Because they will steamroll all over you. Just like they tried with, and were successful with, a lot of other democracies. All right. Let's move on. Republicans and many in conservative media have floated a lot of different conspiracy theories about January 6th, especially about who had perpetrated the violence. Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, and many others have put the blame on Antifa for the riots, and even accused the FBI of being involved. Now, all of those things, of course, are absolute nonsense. There's no evidence of any of that. Investigations prove no involvement by Antifa or BLM in the protests or in the subsequent riots. Nonetheless, according to a number of polls, a lot of Republicans believe that no, it wasn't us. It was Antifa. It was BLM. It wasn't us. The fact that YouGov CBS poll found that 41% of Republicans believed that most of those who forced their way into the Capitol were left-leaning groups pretending to be Trump supporters. And according to a January 2nd to the 4th poll from YouGov, The Economist, Republicans believe 51% to 26% that Trump opponents were involved in the riot. 59% to 14% that Antifa was involved, and 52% to 23% that Black Lives Matter was involved. Now, I'm going to give you all that context for this video, where an MSNBC contributor had actually interviewed Republican voters in Georgia and asked them about January 6th. Here's that video.
How many of those troublemakers were actually Antifa or intentional?
Exactly.
That's what I wanted to ask. Troublemakers. There's just a whole series of questions that don't add up. And you got to go through this much boilerplate and crap to find the three little nuggets of truth or hard factor information that really matters. And I'm just so frustrated with the entire thing, I want to forget about it. And I looked at every photograph in the AJC. There were about 20 pictures in that newspaper that day. And all of the ones that were smashing and bashing and crashing, 25, 28 years old, skinny jeans with the beards. And I said to myself, that's not the normal Republican. I mean, look at us here. I mean, maybe he was paid to do that. None of it makes any sense. There is so much going on when you bore down into the facts.
Well, and let's take a step. So if this was happening and it was Antifa, then why didn't President Trump whip into action and stop it? He didn't tweet. He didn't call off the dogs. Why was that?
I mean, you can see right there the moment where his brain was broken. Like, oh no, does not compute. The visible confusion on his face. It is absolutely priceless. Priceless. Now, look, I think we all know at this point that if it were BLM or Antifa, or mostly BLM, let's be fair, that they would have been shot on sight. I mean, think about it this way. What do you think the government would do if a bunch of black men started running at a police barrier? I think we all know what would happen. It would have been a massacre, an absolute massacre. And by the way, had it been either of those groups, do you think that right-wing media wouldn't be talking about this every single day? That Fox News would be like, oh, by the way, do you remember when Antifa and BLM dressed up as Trump supporters and invaded the Capitol? Now, again, you do hear them, they'll say it casually, like, oh, yeah, you know, it was totally Antifa and BLM. But anyway, moving on. We'll talk about something else. And by the way, a lot of Republicans polled when asked were like, oh, you know, January 6th, not a big deal. Let's put it all behind us. But wait, if it was Antifa or BLM that had done that, the last thing they would want to do is put it behind them and say that it wasn't a big deal. It makes no sense. It's cognitive dissonance to the max. They know it was their side. They know it was their side. I mean, just absolutely amazing. And I love the excuse here. You know, they didn't look like typical Republicans. I mean, they're just young and they had skinny jeans and beards. Definitely not Republicans. Oh, really? Really? Well, again, that's not even true. Interestingly enough, this is according to research here, the typical right-wing extremist is actually under the age of 34. So it actually kind of fit that profile, right? But January 6th rioters, their demographics actually were mostly into their 40s and 50s. Now, this is according to the University of Chicago Project on Security, who found that of the 716 people arrested or charged as of January 1st, 2022, for storming the Capitol, more than half of them are actually white. No, not just half of them. Half of them were actually business owners, including CEOs, are from white-collar occupations, including doctors, lawyers, architects, and accountants. Those people who were generally more established economically. So it wasn't an issue of like, oh, you know, we're being destroyed in this economy. No, they're actually doing pretty great. And they were not young. Only 7%, by the way, were unemployed. 14% were members of militias, such as Oath Keepers or extremist groups, such as the Proud Boys. 86% had no affiliation to either of those groups. Many of them actually came from urban areas, such as San Francisco, LA, Chicago, New York City, Philadelphia, Houston, and Dallas. Definitely doesn't fit the normal, you know, white terrorists, right? No, the thing that united them is racism. Racism. They come from counties where the white share of the population had been declining the fastest. Not surprisingly, the number one belief among the insurrectionists on January 6th, shared by fully 75% of them, is great replacement theory, of where white people are being replaced by the Democratic Party. The thing that Tucker Carlson endlessly rails against, talks about. That thing has been mainstreamed in the Republican Party. Again, when you look at the breakdown of the rioters, 93% were white, 86% were male. Very few of them actually had military or law enforcement experience. They were overwhelmingly educated. They were members of the middle class. And they consumed mainstream media alongside of right-wing media. In fact, only 10% of them got their news from mainly right-wing social media like Gab or Telegram. So understand that this is a group of very non-typical Americans. White Americans, of course, who were motivated by racism. Not economic anxiety, but racism. Who knew all the reality, but chose to ignore it. And that is incredibly dangerous. Incredibly dangerous. I mean, again, you look at who they blame. Oh, it was Antifa. It was BLM. Antifa isn't even a real organization. It's an ideology. People identify as being anti-fascist. Why? Because they don't want to be fascist. If you're against being anti-fascist, then what does that make you? It makes you fascist. Same thing. BLM, obviously, and Antifa, and the left are anti-racist. Now, if you're anti-racist, what does that make you? Makes you racist. I mean, look, we know who these people are. We know why they did it. They said, we want an authoritarian. We want Donald Trump to run this country because we are afraid that we are being replaced by brown people and black people. It is racism 100%. Oh, the reality in the world could not get through to them and make them realize that, hey, look, demographics might be changing in this country, but that doesn't mean that you're losing your power. That doesn't mean that you're going to be treated poorly. But the thing is that these people were are so afraid of minorities taking over or outnumbering them, right? Because they believe that they're going to get treated the way that they treated those same minorities. Fear served up to them by mainstream media, corporate media, which Fox News is. The Fox News has mainstreamed these ideas. Tucker Carlson talks about it all the time. And not just Tucker Carlson. A lot of the hosts on Fox News talking about great replacement. Mark Levin, great replacement. All these people, all these staples of Fox News that is considered to be a legitimate news source in this country. That's where they're getting this from. One of the major Republican party, or one of the major parties in this country, the Republican Party, has mainstreamed all of this. Broken. This is a broken country. This is a broken political system. And what are the Democrats doing to fight back? We can reason with them. Oh, we can just shake them out. The fever will break, as Obama had said. No, the fever will never break. It will never break. And your weakness, your appeasement of the far right will do nothing. Will do nothing. And the reason it can't, one of the reasons, of course, that they don't fight back as well is because guess what? They would rather side, unfortunately, with the fascists. The moneyed interests would side with the fascists, the authoritarians, as long as that money continues to roll in. As long as corporations, corporate America, the donor class continues to make money, they will turn a blind eye to this. Because they will always ally with each other. The center and the far right will ally with each other to crush the left. Because the left actually challenges their own financial interests. Incredibly scary times, everyone. Incredibly scary times. All right. The donor class on both sides. It's the same. It's the same class. The same groups of people. All right. Let's move on. Last story of the day. A video of an Idaho woman attempting a citizen's arrest has gone viral. Take a look. All right, so look, the video was posted on Twitter by Dave New World 2, also known as 50 Shades of Way. But I don't know the source. I don't know who originally posted it, whose video it was, but it's all over different social media. It's on Reddit, it's on Twitter, but there's so far no details on where it came from other than this was a weirdo in Idaho. No details verified, no name, no reason for the stop, no information. No information at all. We just have the video, which is just insane. So, look, my thoughts are, what are you doing? What are you doing? Okay, so you saw how, as she was going down the road, she started weaving in and out, and it didn't even look like she was driving in the lane. It looks like she was driving in the center of the road, which is again a road hazard, and then whips around and stops in the middle of the road. Insane. Obstruction of traffic. She may or may not have a gun. You probably noticed in that video as well, and she reached behind her back as if she did have a gun. Now imagine if she had actually, because I don't think she did, or else she probably would have used it, or had brandished it, again, because it's Idaho, and you have more guns in this country than human beings. Just insane. There's so much more that I need to know about this situation. So much more. Now, again, I do know that in Idaho and in several other states, you can do things that are citizens arrests. Apparently, that's exactly what she was trying to do. But again, we have seen how laws like that work out in other places. Like, for example, the case of Ahmaud Arbery. Ahmaud Arbery was shot and killed for jogging. They attempted to make a citizen's arrest. Why? Because it was a black man jogging through our neighborhood. So I generally think that it's a bad idea for rando white ladies to start trying to make citizens arrests of people as if she's some sort of, police officer. No, don't do that. Now, look, I know the police aren't great on that either. They don't necessarily have a great track record during stops and things like that. But I think random white Karens would be a little bit worse. And I don't know the race of the driver, by the way, but I do know that in Idaho, they got a bit of a MAGA problem. I mean, look, the Republican Party, according to people who are living there, has become even more extreme and have been targeting opponents with strategies called confrontational politics, helping to drive moderate officials to resign or retire. So there has been a huge MAGA insane takeover of right-wingers with guns. And I don't know that this is actually a part of it. Again, I don't have any of the details. I don't have any information. But I'm going to guess that this person who's trying to randomly stop people in the middle of the road and doing it very poorly, by the way, well, I'm going to guess that this person probably isn't all that progressive. So, weirdo stuff happening in Idaho. Might want to police them Karens instead of letting the Karens be the police. Insane. Insane. To be honest, if the person in that car would have run her over due to pulling a gun, that would be considered self-defense. Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of, ironically, a lot of Republican states that have said, if there's a protester near your car, and I know she's not a protester, but if there's a protester near your car, you can run them over. Insane. Okay, let's read some super chats here. All right. Let's see. A Dystopian Dragon says, it does not concern President Joe Manchin. In reference to, I guess, Republicans becoming more and more authoritarian and insane. Let's see. Cawthorn is getting pulled before an ethics committee for pushing crypto. Good. Good. Gabby Mathis, thank you for the very kind $5. Dango Bengal also says Republicans would soon return to U.S. politics and how Colombia and most Latin American countries handle their political races, bodyguards, and riot shields. Yeah, they then look at, by the way, all these, far-right governments, and they think, that's nailed it. Nailed it. We're going to go that way. We're going to go in that direction. Jesus. Let's see. Let's pull this up here. Super chat that just came in. Daniel Bengal asks, when will Manchin put on the R, Republican? Does he really need to? I mean, think about it this way. Like, as long as he pretends to be a Democrat, he still has a lot of power. If he joins the Republicans, he's just another Republican. So this way, he's actually, as a Democrat, he's actually sitting pretty, even though, again, he's actually doesn't espouse any of the values of being a supposed liberal. But it doesn't matter to him because what matters is his power and his influence over the party. And the party, by the way, continues to support him wholeheartedly. Just like they support people like Henry Cuellar, who is an anti-choice Democrat, and support all the different corporate Democrats. I mean, we got a huge problem. A huge problem. It's playing both sides against the middle, Sister Dark Canuck. Yeah. And again, it always ends up with Joe Manchin somehow winning. Isn't that weird? Let's see. Shizzle Lion Dogs, thank you for the 20 bits. Tempodan 918, thank you for the gifting a tier 1 month sub. Thank you, Ravaging Wolverine, for resubbing with Prime. Really appreciate that. Tempodan 918, thank you for gifting 5 tier 1 subs. Appreciate that. That is awesome. And again, thank you for the raid, TYT. Tempodan 918, also for thank you for resubbing for a month at tier 1. Jeff Pog. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Say right here, we're going to raid into another channel here. Let's see. We could raid into Left Flank Vets, the Serfs, or Keffels. Some good choices for the people that I know that are on. Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm wondering, I want to try to start getting more guest spots on for Fridays. So to do some more panels here, I think that would be really cool to do. So I need some ideas. Looking at maybe asking Farron Cousins to come back on, or Jesse Dollamore, see if I can maybe get David Dole. If Nkano is on, go with him. Yep, looking into that as well. Okay, so there's Keffel, James for the Internet, Gremlo, Dollamore, Farron. All of these people. Yeah, Christo. Yep. J.R. Jackson. J.R. Jackson, I can't get a hold of J.R. Jackson. He does not read his DMs or his emails. Bo of the Fifth Column. Again, I have to go with people that actually would be receptive in going on a smaller channel as well. But I could definitely try to reach out. Let's see. Owen from Telltale. Doubt Sam Cedar would do it for now. But I could always ask. David Packman. Abelina. Oh, Abelina Sabrina. Dr. Rashad Ritchie. That's a good one as well. Getting Canada co-host Brianna Joy Gray has made him his personal target, harassed behind a block. Yeah. Status quo. I could reach out to Jordan as well. Bo is great, but I think he prefers solo. Vosh, I could try to bring Vosh back. Yeah, a lot of great suggestions, everybody. So thank you for those. Ben Carollo. Oh yeah, I could definitely reach out to Ben too. She's great. Demon Mama Xanderhall, Ben Glebe. Again, it has to be people that would be willing to come on the show. So some of the bigger people might be a little bit more difficult to convince to come on the stream, but again, I will do my best to reach out, but not for Friday, most likely regarding Ben. Oh yes, because Ben does her stream Galaxy Brain. Mike Figueredo, Humanist Report. We just had him on Friday. Haven't seen Ben Dixon on. Oh yes, definitely Ben Dixon. We'll have to reach out to him as well. So yeah, there are a lot of great people to reach out to, which is fantastic. I'm planning to starting a podcast in the next few weeks, maybe me after I'm established in the future. Two Man Tim, definitely check that out. All right. So that said, thank you all for going around the nation with me today. Thank you for the shares and the gifted subs and the bits and the super chats. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you all. Thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon / evening. And we will see you back here tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, for another fantastic show. All right. Thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See you tomorrow.
I will eat your ass.
Dumps. Big, massive dump.
How you like that, boy?
Tolerate. Tighten up my meat. I like my meat tight. I'm cognitively there.
Tallywhack.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.